Chapter 15. Movement awakened him, but not with any urgency. The frog was rolling a bit more and had nearly dumped him out of the bunk. When his eyes slid open, his ears began to work as well, and he heard the wind whistling in the rigging and halyards, and the sails crackling as they luffed. He realized that there were some waves making up. That's how he thought it. Now, as he would have a week before, as somebody in a parking lot in Ventura, California, who would think of waves growing larger. He thought there are waves making up, and that was a nautical way to think. And he did not know why he'd think that way now, but he did. He sat up in the bunk and stood to put his head out the cabin top. It was absolutely pitch dark. Clouds had come to cover the silver moon and stars, and even the sails, so white and usually easy to see, were practically invisible. The wind was strong but not wild, just a good, strong, steady force. He drank more water, rinsing his mouth, put the life jacket on, and backed the boat around to catch the breeze. She had been waiting for it. The jib fairly popped with energy, filled and pulled her out and away. The main still reefed. He tightened a bit to match the jib, and the frog seemed to leap ahead. She ran into the first wave like a truck hitting a wall. The hull gave a resounding thump, and she seemed nearly to stop. Then the wind drove her again, and she hit the next wave and nearly stopped again. It was like riding a roller coaster while somebody every 20 seconds hits the front end with a giant sledgehammer. Each time the boat drove into a wave, water shot back across her top in a dashing spray that almost knocked him over. He clung onto the high side lifeline with one hand, the tiller with the other, and braced himself tightly into the cockpit. But still, when the frog slammed into the next wave and the water hit him, he had trouble keeping his balance. By the 10th wave, he knew they couldn't do it. He had been holding straight east, trying to head back to what he figured should be Los Angeles, or maybe a bit south of that, but it was impossible. The slamming of the sea had already jarred open the drawers beneath the sink, and he hadn't really started. If he tried to hold course and continue to take the waves nearly head on, he wasn't sure the boat could handle it. The noise was deafening. He let her fall off the wind so that she was pointing south of straight east. Down to 100, then 120 degrees, and finally, when she was pointing at close to 130 on the glowing compass dial and moving more with the waves than quartering against them, she settled down. The change was astounding. It was like a different ocean. The noise virtually disappeared. The slamming stopped, and the frog surfed down the long swells and waves so fast she sometimes showed close to 10 knots on the speed indicator. "Now this is something," he said to her, holding fast to the tiller as it fairly sang with speed vibration. "This is really something." Soon he was keeping to a steady 8 knots, surging to 9 and 10 when she surfed and slid down the waves. He laughed with the speed, reveled in it, roared with it, the frog, like a train barreling down a mountain. He had held her that way for 2 hours, then another half hour when he sensed the danger. Later, he would try to remember what he knew, what he felt. It was perhaps a change in the wind's sound, or a change in the pattern of the sound of the sea that had first warned him. A second later, he heard an actual hissing rumble that at first meant nothing to him. Then he looked ahead of him, squinting against the darkness, and saw, or thought he saw, or felt that he thought he saw, a white line stretching horizontally, which made as little sense as the rumble until he put the two together and realized that what he thought he was seeing, was surf, and close, breaking right in front of him. He was about to run on a beach. He slammed the tiller over just as he felt the surf grab the boat and begin to carry them into the fatal run to shore. The waves were huge, and he could hear them, well now, thundering against a beach he still could not see. His life, and the life of the frog, was measured in seconds. Her nose came around past the beach, aiming more and more out to sea. She hit then. the keel centerboard bumping with a sickening feeling that shuddered all through him, a lurching, dead feeling. But before she could strike hard and be driven down, the nose came back through the wind and the sails filled. He released the right jib sheet, frantically pulled in the left, felt the sail fill and begin to draw, pulling the frog away from shore. Another bump, worse than the first, the surf crashing all around him, and suddenly, impossibly, she was free and reaching again, the surf sound diminishing. Alive. And land. He had found land. The elation held for several moments. Then he realized that if he were within 100 miles of Los Angeles, or either further down near San Diego, the sky would be glowing, the whole world would be light. He had found land, but it was dark. There wasn't a sign of civilization. Where was he?